Welcome in the latest episode of the Betting the Pitch Major League Baseball podcast. I'm your host, real_G_Warner. Tonight's episode, we're going through the August 11th Major League Baseball card. Do make sure you subscribe, Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify at the real_G_Warner on YouTube and on Instagram. We will be going through the previews of each of the top 5 European soccer leagues, England, France, Spain, Germany, Italy, all coming up on this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave comments, 5-star reviews. All are good for more viewers, and that gives me more reason to do more episodes. But we're going to find a best bet winner on tonight's episode, the 11th of August, 2026, year of our Lord 2026, for Major League Baseball card. Those of you that are here live with me, I appreciate you coming out late night. My goal is to get this done a little bit earlier moving forward. We'll see how well we can actually execute that. But starting today with a Vladdy Guerrero jersey. Haven't had a baseball one on in a while, but here we are, and it's time to get into the card. So without further ado, let's take our first look at the Tuesday, August 11th Major League Baseball lines. We'll start at a 6:40 Eastern time first pitch. The Pittsburgh Pirates and Paul Skeens on the road at the Miami Marlins, and Yuri Perez, Eyuri, if you want to pronounce it truly in the way he does. Eyuri Perez, a plus 104 underdog at home, total 7.5. This one minus 130 to under. So there's probably a lot of sevens out there, and I would expect the number to close there, as I don't really expect anyone to be betting overs with Paul Skeens, at least until people stop believing that he is the best pitcher in baseball. He's been really struggling. His fastball is nowhere near the velocity it was to start the season. Could be seeing some fatigue, some ineffectiveness, just not being able to throw the ball as hard, because there is big statistical anomalies or statistical differences between your performance if you throw 1 mile an hour faster than slower, and it just keeps ratcheting up the higher you go. But I think Paul Skeens is exploitable. I think Eyuri Perez's arm is not on the same level as Skeens, probably because he has struggled with walks in his career, but he's got upper end, high end arm talent that everyone wishes they had. The Miami Marlins bullpen, I think I prefer it to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh did a lot of retooling of the bullpen at the Major League Baseball trade deadline. The problem is I just don't believe bullpens until they've proven it. Switching cities, switching uniforms, switching roles, and things like that are ways to throw off probably the most finicky position in Major League Baseball. It's really hard, or maybe even all sports, it's really hard to know how bullpens perform year to year. It seems like they go try to get the hottest guys at the trade deadline every season, but even that change of scenery can be a problem. And the Pirates are currently a favorite away from home, which always makes me look the other way. We'll next move to the same start time at 6:40 Eastern time. The Cleveland Guardians and Tanner Bybee on the road to Detroit Tigers, and Drew Anderson. I believe it's Drew. Sorry if the Anderson family is listening. Right now, Bybee a plus 113 underdog, minus 125 coming back on the Tigers. Totals 8.5, minus 110. Both ways on this number. First 5 is 5. Total in the first 5 is 5, minus 122 to under. That's a pretty big number. I've noticed that BetOnline, where I'm quoting all these lines courtesy of BetOnline, sportsbet.ag, are sister sites. They offer the same bonus platforms. If you played on one and not the other, come check it out, because it's certainly worth it. With all that said, also can refer you and would love to do that as a way to further the partnership I've had with that brand for a long time. It's good for openers. It's good for, honestly, getting really key numbers like under 5 in this game, which is probably 4.5 everywhere else right now, or it's not even up, because first 5 numbers usually come out in the mornings of games rather than the night before. That's where you can get in early. That's where you can get the best numbers. And that's certainly a reason to subscribe to patreon.com/real_G_Warner, so you can see all my plays each night. Download the app, turn on notifications. Every time I lock something in, you'll get a buzz, and you know to sign into your sportsbook and place a bet. With that said, Drew Anderson, don't have a huge book on him, but I do have one on the Tigers and on their manager, and I really trust AJ Hinch. The Cleveland Guardians have been scuffling. Have been playing really bad baseball, other than a complete embarrassing juvenile snafu from a parent genius, because he went to Princeton, though athletes that go to Ivy League schools aren't that smart usually. Anyway, he completely brain farted, melted down, whatever you'd want to call it, making a second visit in the first inning of Friday night's game against the Guardians, and literally put his bullpen in disastrous position. And unfortunately, it was really bad for those who played the White Sox home underdog and the under, because it basically was a death sentence early. And that was the only game the Guardians won in the entire series. Big rain delay on Sunday forced a lot of bullpen action. Yes, the day off on Monday was huge, critical, all those sort of things. And Tanner Bybee's been great. He's probably the better pitcher starting here, but he deserves to be an underdog. The Guardians have been playing so poorly. I lean to the Tigers right now. They're coming off a long series in San Francisco, but came after losing the opener, winning the last two to take that series. They are, I think, going to be pitching chaos 2.0 from a couple seasons ago, where they came out of nowhere, sold at the deadline, and then made the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they do it again, because this AL Central is so weak and the wild card is so forgiving in the AL. That last position, if you win 50% of your games, you're probably getting it, maybe even less. So I like the Tigers here. I like them at home, losing an at bat in the ninth inning. If they win in regulation, and I think that plays towards an under five first half, and then also under 8.5 -110 for the total. We'll next go 5 minutes later, the Chicago Cubs and Shota Imanaga on the road, the Washington Nationals and Jake Irvin. Irvin plus 147 underdog, total is 9. This one -118 to under. We have no total for the first 5, which is a little bit bizarre, but I'm not sure I feel anywhere like I want anything to do with that. The Nationals bullpen has been a little bit better since the deadline, but they haven't really added any arms that of note, didn't trade for any, kind of got rid of them instead, or at least got rid of hitters, because who would want their pitching arms at that point? Jake Irvin's come back off the IL. He's had a couple good seasons, or at least a couple seasons ago, he was pretty good. Though the entire Major League Baseball marketplace was betting that he would not be anymore. And you could argue that kind of happened last season. Injury, I think, is the reason why he hasn't been the biggest for a lot of this season. On the other side, Shota Imanaga is a fly ball pitcher, and that's very dangerous in the hot summer months in the Northeast, in all of America, pretty much. But he does and has been keeping the ball in the yard a lot, and the Nationals are not the same offense without James Wood. They're not the same offense without Luis Garcia, nor Curtis Mead, though he was kind of a flash in the pan one-year wonder, in my opinion. But all that sort of matches up to a Nats team that's been playing better than I think they deserve to be. They had a good series at home against the Reds. But to me, the Cubs deserve to be a favorite. -163 is enormous, though, and I don't play road favorites at all, so certainly not at that level. Only interest for me are probably the Nationals, but probably more to over 9 runs right now, coming in at -102 for juice. Now we'll go to the 6:05 Central Time, 7:05 Eastern Time. Seattle Mariners and Brian Wu visit the New York Yankees and Ryan Weathers. Wu, a plus 113 underdog, totals 8.5 -125. Total for the first 5, we actually do have one here, is 4, plus 102 to under, -122 to over. Might see a 4.5 before first pitch is thrown. And you probably want more, or as much as you can, on this number, because Brian Wu has been terrible away from home this season. He has been a great pitcher, honestly, great to back for years and years, great fantasy pitcher as well. If you have him and you play that sport, which is a difficult one to say the least, so much work every day. But with all that said, he's had big issues this year, and away from Seattle has had, I think, some inconsistency in Seattle as well. Those numbers don't really say it as much. And going to the Bronx has been a tough place for him, because he's a fly ball pitcher, and that is a dangerous place to do it. Now, is there a time to back Brian Wu that he's going to turn things around? It could be here against the Yankees lineup that's extremely overrated because they've not been producing at all. But it's hard to say. And Ryan Weathers has been pitching a lot better lately. He also throws a million miles an hour. I think he hits 100. And Seattle Mariners offense has been really weak. They sometimes do perform better away from home, at least scoring more runs away from home, because Seattle's so hard to hit in. But Seattle is where they win games, and I think that's a big ask for them here, even with the questions about Ryan Weathers and the New York Yankees offense. Their bullpen's great, and their pitching staff has been better. Weathers is improving. I think that New York Yankees -125 feels a little too cheap to me tomorrow night. Next, go to the Boston Red Sox. Patrick Sandoval on the road at the Toronto Blue Jays, and Dylan Cease. He's coming off of a complete game shutout against the Red Sox. In his last time facing them, beating Sonny Gray, actually is a slight underdog on the road at Fenway. Well, Sandoval plus 127 underdog here, -140 on the Jays feels enormous. They've been playing well, almost swept the Phillies in Philadelphia this weekend, and then got a Monday night game out of the way against the Red Sox to potentially cool them down a little bit further. But late night with the real _ Junior yawns are back. Sorry about that. But here we are. Patrick Sandoval plus 127 looks interesting. You could argue that he's been living on borrowed time, surviving situations he probably hasn't deserved to. But the Red Sox have been playing so well. I would feel, Dylan Cease dominated once so far. Usually it's not so easy the second time, especially after a really good outing like that. And they saw him for 9 innings and 120 or so pitches. I don't know that I feel great about the total here, because I do worry that both these teams could find some offense. Dylan Cease has been awesome, and the Jays signed him to a long-term deal. That's why they didn't move him at the deadline, essentially, while they traded every other starting pitcher. But I think -140 for the Jays feels expensive, considering their bullpen is not what you'd want for that type of favorite. I don't think it gets a really hot team like the Red Sox. And yes, the Red Sox blew a game on Sunday with Whitlock to, as my friend calls him, Big Butt. Aroldis Chapman. But at this point, to me, that's a 8th, 9th combo that I want to back. Next, we'll go to the 7:15 start. The New York Mets and Nolan McLean on the road to Atlanta Braves and Martin Perez. McLean a plus 113 underdog, totals 8 plus 105 here to under, minus 125 to over. First 5 number here for kicks. Let's go 4.5. Unders minus 112, minus 108 to over. And the big question is, are the Mets for real? They've been hitting the ball very well. Their bullpen, which has been decimated by trades at the trade deadline, injuries too, with Devin Williams hitting the IL now, finally, after mysteriously not pitching in a couple games in Cleveland. But the Mets have been playing really well, winning a lot of games, putting my under 70.5 wins, adjusted second half total in danger. Not feeling they still need to have a really good second half, over 500 to actually hit the over, but I'm certainly more concerned than I was before. And McLean's been really good. He's been their best arm, I think, all season. Certainly Christian Scott has something to say about that, but I think coming into the year, trusting in all this sort of thing, Christian Scott was a little bit less trustworthy or trustable or bankable is probably where I was going that initially. Perez has been an awesome starting pitcher throughout his entire career. No one's ever respected him. Minus 125 is really short on the Atlanta Braves at home. They are missing a little bit of an element to their bullpen with Robert Suarez and his injury, because Suarez to Iglesias 8 and 9 was really, really dynamic and dominant. I don't know that the Mets can compete in a late bullpen game, so I'm not interested in the underdog here. Minus 125 on the Braves looks most interesting to me, though their lineup has not been producing like it can be, and who knows what the heck's happened to Austin Riley. Maybe abducted by aliens. Next, we'll go to the Baltimore Orioles and Brandon Young on the road at the Minnesota Twins and Bailey Ober. Young a plus 104 underdog on the road, totals 9.5 minus 115 to under here, and that feels extremely large. 5.5 is the first 5 total, minus 123 to under. Probably see some 5s out there as the total right now at BetOnline. 5.5 over is plus 103. So Brandon Young has been a great starting pitcher outside of Baltimore his entire career, really bad at home at Camden Yards, which is hard to explain, especially because I don't think he's been there when there was the old fence setup. So I think he'd only been there for the Great Wall of Baltimore. Baltimore's been playing better, didn't have a really good series this weekend against the Rangers, but then smacked Kumar Rocker around on Sunday. So that's helpful. This series started Monday night, and the Orioles, to me, I think they were a favorite on Monday, and this feels like they're a little bit underpriced here as an underdog, but they probably deserve to be because they sold at the deadline. The Minnesota Twins bought. That doesn't say everything to me, but it certainly shows some motivation or where these teams are going. But the Twins are starting at a much lower position. They're in a much more winnable division, and the Orioles are far out compared to their competitors. But their broadcast teams have not given up, as you would expect. But they played really well, had a great series, took care of business at home against one of the worst teams in baseball, in the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But then went to Texas and really struggled. And this is their opportunity to get back on track and put some distance between them and another competitor. Orioles, I'm interested in the plus 104. I also like under 9.5. I think above 9 is pretty much a key number. And honestly, I feel like 8.5 is the standard total in Major League Baseball at most nowadays. It might even be 8 or even 7.5 in a lot of ballparks with good pitchers, at least. Bailey Ober's built for Minnesota because it's a fly ball haven. As long as you don't hit it really high to right field or left field, I guess, is the way to make it all work. Certainly, Pete Alonso could be one doing that. Kobe Mayo's a threat, and there's plenty. Tyler O'Neill, there's many on the Orioles team. Maybe they eventually figure out Gunnar Henderson's problems, that they'll become a competitor again, but they haven't been for a while. Adley Rutschman's gone. I think this total's enormous. So under 9.5 and under 5.5 first 5 look very interesting to me. Same start time, 6:40 Central Time, 7:40 Eastern Time. Cincinnati Reds welcome back Nick Lodolo off the IL for the millionth time for a blister issue. Chicago White Sox or hosts, and they have Sean Burke on the mound, likely rocking his patent leather Jordans, Jordan 1s, I believe. Lodolo plus 138 underdog, minus 152 coming back on the White Sox. Total is 8, minus 105 to under. And our first 5 number, if you want to trust a starting pitcher coming off the IL after a long layoff, is 4, minus 126 to over, plus 106 to under. Now, the White Sox, I'm just not a believer. They had a good series win this weekend against Guardians, who've been playing terribly, but basically handed them a game on Friday night due to a juvenile manager, a young team all over the place that's really kind of showing their age or lack thereof. The nice part, though, is the Reds, they've been playing really, really well, but the market has not believed it. Plus 138 for Nick Lodolo, and the best arms in their organization. One of the best arms in the league. Just has real trouble avoiding blisters on his middle finger, I think it is. And that's really been his health concerns, but I guess blisters are bad enough that you can't pitch through them. With all that said, Burke's been good, but not to this price. I don't trust the White Sox offense enough. Colton Montgomery looks awesome. Chase Mydroff, we'll see how good he turns out to be, but there's a lot of questions, I think, throughout that lineup. They weren't expected to compete this year. So the Reds, I feel like, have some value, though. Do you want to back them is a big question. It seems like a lot of Sal Stewart, a lot of Ellie De La Cruz, and 7 other guys right now in that lineup. Tyler Stevenson's been good, but mainly challenging pitches, I think. Next, we'll go to the Philadelphia Phillies in Christopher Sanchez in St. Louis, and Andre Palante is starting for the Cardinals, who's been really good this year and has some spaces in time where he can be very, very good and then goes back to the scrap heap after that. With that said, the Cardinals were not supposed to compete this year, so that's why he's had a starting rotation spot this whole season. This is a 7:45 Eastern time start. The Cardinals a plus 149 underdog at home. Total is 8 minus 105 to under. And if you want to play the Andre Palante game, 4.5 is the first half total, minus 119 to under. And that's probably where I lean biggest interest rather than playing the home underdog is I think playing St. Louis and that total under. Christopher Sanchez, I just don't want to trust anyone to score runs against him. St. Louis has some boppers in that lineup. Jordan Walker is the home run derby champion is who I'm thinking of, but he's not consistent enough to threaten, I don't think, Philadelphia Phillies starter in Christopher Sanchez. But the Phillies bullpen's been questionable. St. Louis doesn't have as much depth there, though Ryan Stanek and I think George Soriano have been very good. Got a closer. So, I mean, this could be one of those situations where you play the underdog and just hope the Phillies lineup doesn't show up. But I think under is another way to play that in a way that you can actually get the benefits, reap the benefits of the Slim Reaper, Christopher Sanchez. Next, we'll go to a late slate of games on the West Coast as we had a bunch tonight. We have a bunch tomorrow as well. We'll go to 8:38 Central Time, 9:38 Eastern Time. The local Texas Rangers are in Anaheim for Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Russ Johnson, I think it is, some Johnson that shouldn't be in the bigs. He's a plus 125 underdog at home to Cody Bradford, coming recently off of Tommy John surgery. I believe this is his second start coming back to the bigs. Bradford minus 138 favorite, plus 125, as I said, on the Angels. Total is 9 minus 118 to over. And I just don't really trust any pitchers in this matchup. The Rangers were trying to deal and trying to trade their studs. Jacob deGrom was asked to waive his no-trade clause at the deadline because the Rangers had fallen under 500 after getting swept in Houston. It's not great, but they've had a good series, at least 2 of the 3 games against Baltimore. They need to win this one. This is a series they need to have to have, must have. And the line certainly suggests that they will get it. I just don't know if I trust it, but we'll see. Next, go to the Colorado Rockies and Takasuya Sugano. I could be wrong on the first name. And Mitch Bratt for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Sugano plus 158 underdog, smaller than I made it. Total is 9 minus 125 to over. And that's probably my biggest interest here. Don't really trust the Rockies to do anything of note, really. But for me, the Diamondbacks, I mean, I backed them literally every game they played last week. Good against the Dodgers winning that series. Split with the Padres, a little disappointing, but good enough. And certainly it was a profitable week back in the D-backs as big underdogs, especially in that Dodgers series. But this is not the place for me to get involved. Over 9, probably biggest interest there. 4 more games to go. Wow, a lot of late slate. We'll go now to the Milwaukee Brewers and Kyle Harrison on the road at San Diego Padres and Walker Buehler. Harrison was great off the IL, had some cramping, I think, in his legs, which probably makes sense as he hadn't been pitching that many or throwing that many pitches for a while. But he visits Walker Buehler, a plus 125 home underdog are the Padres. Total is 8 in this one, minus 125 to that under. First 5 is a 4.5 right now, juiced minus 122 to under. And that's probably my biggest interest there. I'm not interested in backing road favorites here. Don't really trust Walker Buehler at this point, especially against the Milwaukee Brewers offense that really puts a lot of pressure on you. But he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing, at least. He's not one of those rookies that really just struggle to miss bats at this point. He's had to get to this point as a veteran. The nice part about the Padres is if they go to their bullpen, there's a lot of great arms in there, so Walker Buehler doesn't have to cover as many outs. The nice part on the Brewer side as well is they've got a deep bullpen themselves. Abner Uribe gives you a heart attack every time he's out there, but he and Trevor McGill, the normal name to McGill, are great arms, big arms at the end, and can certainly keep a Padres lineup quiet that's underachieved for years now, and it really has not been noticed, I don't think. So under 8, Under 4.5 first 5 look very interesting to me in that one. 3 more games left to go. Wow, they keep multiplying. We'll go next to Sacramento for the Tampa Bay Rays. Nick Martinez, I think the leader in the AL Cy Young, or in the AL of ERA, if I'm not mistaken. And Barnett starting for the Athletics. Athletics plus 142 at home, totals 9.5, plus 106 to under, minus 126 to over. And that park is a little league park. I don't trust this minor league stadium, and it's really not a place I want to play unders in. 2 more. Houston Astros, Hunter Brown, the Diesel, who's looking like he's figured it out on the road to San Francisco Giants, and Carson Whisenhunt. Whisenhunt, a plus 169, nice underdog at home. Totals minus 111 to 8, under 8. And I'll be looking for first 5 number as well. I'd imagine it'd be a 4 or 4.5. The big question is how much can Whisenhunt deliver, because I just don't think the Giants are going to score much against Hunter Brown or a great Houston bullpen, and that's the biggest question, I think, overall. Last but not least, the Kansas City Royals, Michael Wacha on the road at the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Blake Snell is making an appearance. We'll see how long he stays off the IL this time. Wacha plus 231 underdog. My number is 230 exactly, so 1 cent off. Total is 8 plus 103 to under, minus 123 to over. And if you look first 5, you can get a under 4.5, minus 119. Minus 101 to over 4.5. And Michael Wacha has been awesome this season. I need to actually grab a run line number as well. It's plus 1.5, and it is even money right now. The big question is, if you're back in the Royals, how many outs can Michael Wacha get you? His over-under is probably 18.5. So 6 innings and 1 out. I guess he would need to hit the over. He's certainly done that, but he's not getting any younger. The weather should be better in Los Angeles than it's been in Kansas City, so it might mean he sticks around longer. But if Wacha gets hit hard, the Royals bullpen has no chance. I also have no idea what to expect from Blake Snell. Can't imagine he's going deep in games. Dodgers have not been playing well, but they get to play one of the worst teams of baseball that didn't even really have assets to trade off at the deadline because nobody wanted them. So it's a pretty good setup. I guess they did trade Lane Thomas, but I mean, he was a afterthought, I think, for most teams, and the Braves just needed a right-handed hitter. With all that said, only interest for me is the Royals run line plus 1.5 back on Michael Wacha, who's been making me a ton of money this season, as he has for a lot of years, really. Has a great career. I don't like saying that about Aggies, I got to say, but he's been awesome. Under does interest me a little bit, especially with Blake Snell's arm, but I have no idea how long he's going this game. That's the biggest question for me. Now, before we get to the best bet coming end of show, I did not get a reel out today, but I'm going to try to do that for tomorrow's episode. We'll see if we can make that happen. But if you have any questions or want to throw something in there, feel free to throw that in the comments. You can display it right here. It's one of the best parts of StreamYard. And if you're looking to subscribe or find something there, I can also refer you there. Plus Bet Online, sportsbet.ag if you're looking for a sports book. With all that said, follow the podcast, Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify at @the_Real_G Warners, where we are on YouTube and on Instagram. Also want to tell you all that we are going full steam ahead with an NFL podcast on this channel with _Schnicker for another year. We're probably going to do a preseason like futures type of episode before we get into week 1. Looking forward to that. Hoping to have another great season on that side of sports. Also, we'll be going with the college basketball podcast, the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast, presented to you by Nobody is coming back to this channel. We'll see that with Big East Ben coming up later as we get closer to the season there as well. Big East Ben living and dying over Bill Self retiring rumors and all sort of things. So looking forward to that coming up real soon. Last thing I'll plug is my Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports, including what was a really good futures run last season in the soccer world. Picked Barcelona to win their league, Inter Milan to win their league. Both were winners. They did lose on Athletic Club Bilbao, finishing in the Champions League top 4 place in Spain. But, you can't win them all, especially when they're all plus money underdogs or underdog futures or getting odds for those futures. So certainly be looking for more of that, trying to expand a little bit more into the other competitions like Europa League and Champions League as well. Of course, plenty of group stuff, and Atletico Madrid were great to the pod and honestly to Patreon subscribers last year. So we're going to try to find more of that coming up. Looking forward to that as well moving forward. So for our best bet on this episode, the August 11th edition, 2026. For our best bet in this episode, we're going to go the Detroit Tigers, Drew Anderson, and what might be a bullpen game at home, but I just trust what I've seen for Detroit a lot more than the mistake prone. And honestly, I'm very concerned about Jose Ramirez and his handmade bone surgery. I don't think he's the same hitter. I don't think the Guardians could do anything without him. Angel Canoa has been great, but I don't know really if I trust anything from the Guardians. Their bullpen's been struggling, which is like a normal strength for them. It's pretty much Cade Smith, and he's blowing saves. Just a lot of bad juju over there for Cleveland, especially after they did a lot at the deadline to build a team that literally didn't look very good. One of the worst hitting teams in all of baseball. The Tigers can certainly hit them. And Tanner Bivey's great, but doesn't get a lot of run support. So I'll take the Tigers minus 125 as our best bet in this episode. We'll see you tomorrow night for the next episode of the Betting the Pitch Baseball Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, search Betting the Pitch, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. Also on YouTube at @the_Real_G Warner and Instagram at @the_Real_G Warner. Of course, on Twitter. And we'll see you tomorrow night.